to the Metaverse Insider's interview series. My name is Josh, and in today's episode, we cover part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Sokwoo Rhee, discussing the trajectory of LG Nova in the Metaverse. So, Dr. Rhee, to resume the conversation, it's very interesting to see where you guys are going in the space. I initially expected this interview to go down more of the route from a product perspective, i.e., how LG's TVs could be utilized for Metaverse application. However, seeing it from this perspective, you appear to have a greater focus on industry development over direct user experiences.
So we all talk about 3D and we all talk about glasses, but people are more familiar with having a limited virtual world presented to you, and you still have access to everything else, like a monitor screen or TV screen. So one thing that we are interested in how to expand and augment 2D experience that we have in Metaverse. Okay, so can we project Metaverse on not just 3D glasses, but on 2D? So it could be it may not be ultimate solution to everything, but it may be probably a intermediate step to go to full baked virtual world or augmented reality world. So that's certainly something we are very seriously looking at too.
I totally agree with you. I do believe that VR technology isn't synonymous with the metaverse. You can still experience the metaverse, as you were saying, through these 2D screens. And I do reckon that many people will still prefer that.
Actually, there is a statistics. I forgot the exact number, but I think the metaverse still about somewhere over 80%. I forget exactly the number is still being accessed through 2D screens. Believe it or not, from tablet, phones, and also this computer screen. So at this point, glasses that's still a minority, even inside the metaverse world. So I believe it will change, but that's what it is right now.
Absolutely. There are still many barriers that need to be overcome for it to be more accepted. But that's a very high statistic. I'm quite surprised by that.
Think about all kinds of like Roblox, for example, or all these. I mean, it comes down to how you. But if you define metaverse as a sort of like virtual world that you can access, still a lot of them are consumed with tablets and phones and 2D screens as of today. So I think that's where it comes from.
Well, that's very true. So there are many people that argue that platforms like Roblox, Sandbox, even Decentraland, things like that, are the metaverse already. But as we said before, the metaverse is a buzzword, so no one truly knows what it will eventually be. We're still very much in the process of trying to discover it.
Well, that's actually a good point. And it's not any different than like 10, 20 years ago, there was something called the IoT, Internet of Things. Okay. So when the word first came out, like everybody thought they knew what it was, but when you really come down to okay, please define exactly what it is, then everybody has a different answer. So I think that's exactly the same thing that metaverse is going through right now about 20 years ago. But what happened when there was this buzzword of IoT, Internet of Things, 20 years ago, 15 years ago, probably started. As of right now, believe it or not, you are living in the environment. There are a lot of sensors, smart thermostats, as you know, smart lighting. These are the dreams that IoT experts had like 20 years ago. So it's happening. I have at least 50 devices in my home that some way is connected and controlled in one area or the other. So metaverse as of today is a buzzword. Nobody really knows what it is. Maybe 10 years from now, maybe even 20 years from now, you will be living in metaverse without even knowing it. So I think that's at least what I think. Well, I may be wrong, but that's what I think it will happen.
Yes, I do agree. Don't really hear many people nowadays saying, "Oh, I'm going to go to the internet." So I guess it could be a similar concept where people enter this new world without even really thinking about it or even knowing. But yeah, it's a very fascinating topic to come from.
Yep.
So I'm quite interested to know if there are any external companies or platforms that you are investing in to help establish LV Nova within this infrastructure of the metaverse that we've been discussing over the course of today.
Yes. So I didn't have a lot of time to explain what we do in LG Nova specifically, but we work with a lot of startups. That's what we do. So we believe startups are at the forefront of innovation and they're the experts both in technology and market. So we want to work with them and we also want to build a relationship. And LG eventually will want to build our own business, but in collaboration with those startups. So that's the idea. Now, we last year, actually 2 years ago, we started running a program called a Grand Challenge program. So it is a big name, but what we are doing, it's a call for proposals for startups to work with LG Electronics, what kind of joint business they want to create. Okay, so we picked 10 companies last year as first batch. And then one of them is called IQ3. It's a IQ3. What they do is they have a very interesting technology to reduce the time to build a metaverse a program, metaverse processes. And the reason we picked that company to work with us because of the industrial training. The biggest time consuming and most expensive part is creating the metaverse content. So if you have a refrigerator, then if you want to create a training content, you literally have to create all kinds of graphics and somehow manually create all that. It's expensive and time consuming. Now, this company does it it's almost like drag and drop. You drag and drop, and anyone, it's like you're writing a PowerPoint. You can create these contents almost on your own. So the reason we work with this company, okay, that's the kind of like technology that we want to partner with to bring into this industrial training application. So this company is really interesting, and we are in discussions of, as you talked about, investment and also the creating commercial relationships and so on.
That's really interesting. Well, correct me if I'm wrong, but does that incorporate AI-based machine learning?
They have some machine learning component in the back end, but at the end of the day, they have well, they ha- so answer is yes, but I guess I haven't opened up their source code, so I don't know exactly what they do. But yes, they have their own machine learning component. But really, at the end of the day, what attracts us is they made Metaverse, the program design a lot easier than everything. It's almost like game changer, at least in this specific sector we are looking at.
Oh, really good stuff. I actually saw earlier the select 20 companies from the competition that you were doing. So, yeah, it's quite interesting.
So now this top 10 came from the challenge that was concluded last year, and we ran the next challenge program. And this year we announced the top 40, but out of that, half of that is related to this new area that we're talking about, metaverse, healthcare, and there are a lot of exciting companies. And if you look at them, there are companies like Nakamir, for example, which is along the same line as what I just explained. They make the authoring of a metaverse, the contents easier, and they are also targeting on more of an industrial application. So we when we set a theme or a market, we want to work with the startups that can bring in the missing pieces to make these things work.
Fantastic. Thank you for clarifying that for me. It's all very exciting, and you guys are effectively creating a pipeline to connect all of these industries together within the vast metaverse umbrella.
Yeah, that is the dream, and we are hoping we LG Nova and neither LG we are not going to be able to do 100%. Okay, no one can do 100% of everything. However, we are hoping that we can seed or we become a catalyst in certain segment of metaverse that can help expand the familiarity and usefulness of metaverse in a broader applications.
Fantastic. So, out of these potential companies, aside from the ones that you've already mentioned, are there any more which you have deemed to be extremely prosperous and ones that you could see potential collaboration with down the line?
Well, so idea is to work with as many of them as possible. So the way that we select them is we first select top 20, top 40, and based on initial assessment and screening. But once we do that, the next step is that we are going to get into deeper dive. We're going to allocate our own employees, our own resources, who have the background of startups and even venture capitals. They know this world, so they were going to be working closely and come up with some kind of like joint business ideas. So, and then not all of them we're gonna adopt. We're not gonna adopt all of them, obviously, but we're gonna evaluate and we're gonna see what we can work together. And based on the outcome, we will consider the investment. We'll consider again the joint partnership and commercial. So, to answer your question, I don't know yet because we haven't got to that process. The reason I just mentioned one company is just it's very aligned with what we've been doing with the other company IQ3. But again, that's not the only company Metaverse. We have many other companies that we can work together, and we want to work together.
Brilliant. I guess there is almost an infinite number of companies that you can work with across the entire metaverse ecosystem. So, is there anything else you would like to add to our discussion before we conclude?
Yeah. So yes. So this is related to metaverse innovation at the same time, more of a general innovation. In many cases, innovation comes from collaboration. Sounds like a cliche, but the time of creating innovation after 10 years of R&D is probably there are not really many of them out there anymore. Okay. So when you create something new, especially something that has economic benefits, in many cases, you have to look at what's out there instead of just saying, that, okay, this is your idea that you just want to create something. So that's the whole point. And especially in metaverse, when all these necessary components are fragmented, it's not possible for one company to do everything. It's just not possible. I mean, you can try, but it's going to be much more effective to create an ecosystem or create sort of collaboration with others. And not all of these collaboration will going to be successful, but some of them will be successful. And that's what's going to be like come the trailblazer of that innovation of metaverse and any path. So I just want to say that because the path that we are taking, LG Nova is exactly that. And I also hope a lot of the metaverse experts, well, metaverse stakeholders, understands that these things cannot be done just by one person. Or well, you can try, and it will probably be able to like 70%, 80%, who knows? But you're not going to be able to do 100% of everything.
Oh, absolutely. It's a far too large of a project for any one company to take on as a whole. I mean, it's not really a project, though, is it? It's a whole movement in the space and current age of technology.
Yeah, and then that's why we are open to work with other companies. I'm not just talking about startups. We want to work with other corporations and others who are interested in partnership with us, in not metaverse, of course, but everything else. I think that's, as of right now, probably the best path forward for innovation in anywhere.
Fantastic. Really enjoyed that. So, just to finalize our discussion, within the next 1 to 2 years per se, is there anything super exciting to come or that you would like to or want to discuss with us today? And how would you expect Web3 and the metaverse to influence LG as a company?
Yeah. So first, metaverse is for me, it's not a single industry, and it is actually a tool or as a trend that can be applicable in many other industries. Just like I said, you can apply metaverse to industrial training, for example. Okay, same deal. I think the healthcare will be potentially a huge game changer if you can leverage metaverse. We are already seeing it in many places, especially in the thousands of startups that came to us. A big chunk of that is on at the overlap of healthcare and metaverse. Okay, so that is one interesting trend that I think it will come up, and it will probably gonna be pretty good in the next few years. At least that's my personal prediction. Now, along the same line, at home, metaverse can play a many role. Maybe it can be a additional device on top of, let's say, TVs or anything else. But also, we are looking at healthcare applications too. So healthcare metaverse, that collaboration I think, going to be huge, and this overlap between the healthcare metaverse is going to be huge in the next few years. And even at home, I think that's where I think we're going to be very promising results. So at home healthcare, it itself is going to be big, but then adding metaverse component with potentially sensors, and not just medical sensors, but also haptics or just also tactile sensors that combined with the more of a additional modality for communication, like like a screen, or again glasses and all these things. I think, again, I cannot pinpoint what it will be right now, but I can get my feeling. But I feel that there may be something there in the next few years.
That's absolutely fascinating. It's very nice to hear a company like LG Nova discuss healthcare within this aspect of technology. It is quite often overlooked. That half the people that I talk to primarily discuss user experience and entertainment. I mean, that there's no doubt that there will still be benefits in those areas, and many people will still enjoy these aspects, but it is still quite refreshing to see it from this perspective. Well, thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Rhee. It's been really appreciated. Well, that's a wrap for part 2 of our conversation with Dr. Rhee from LG Nova. Be sure to stay tuned for weekly updates in the industry and content covering all things metaverse. Follow the Metaverse Insider on Twitter and LinkedIn, and visit metaverseinsider.tech for all our content. Thank you for joining us, and until next time.